Number 10. Scimitar Cat Bone. Right off the hop, there have only been a few Scimitar cat fossils found in history, period. So already, this is a good one, right? We love rare finds. I'm into Pokemon Go, so this is like, oh, a Scimitar Cat Bone. Nice, add that to the collection. The Homotherium latidens lives again. Back in 2011, a bone of the beast was found on a Dominion Creek mining site right next to Dawson City in Yukon. Yeah, you want to make fun of Canadians for living in the cold? Well, joke's on you, pal. We have frozen Scimitar cat bones. Yeah, in your face. In your face. Researchers at Copenhagen sequenced its genome, and its parents were only distantly related, so this was a rare cat while it was alive, let alone found frozen 47,000 years later, in 2011. We love it. Number 9. The oldest ice on the planet. They say you're as cold as ice, but never as old as ice. Let's change that. Let's make a new phrase. Why not? Scientists are digging up ice in Antarctica. There's pretty much nothing else to dig up, so obviously. Millions of years of ice hides in there, so there's of course millions of ancient secrets. John Higgins, a geochemist at Princeton, believes that there's 5 million-year-old ice still intact. And I want to lick it. I want to see what it tastes like, you know what I mean? Just ready to probe. Weird to say that and then immediately the probe thing. We'll do one or the other. Lick ice and then probe it. I'm like, who is this guy? One group is claiming to have found 8 million years old ice, but climatologist Eric Wolf from the University of Cambridge says, my attitude is that I accept that it's old ice. I don't know if it's exactly 8 million, but I accept that it's old ice. Yeah, scientists are beefing about Ice Age, not the movies, like the age of the, you get it. There've been way too many of those movies, eh? It's like 7 now. Number 8, frozen bird. Back in 2018, an extremely well-preserved bird was found in northeastern Siberia, near the village of Balaya Gora. The bird itself was quite hidden, which explains its incredible preservation. It was found 150 meters into an ice tunnel, and the fascinating thing here, other than of course, you know, oh my god, a mummified bird, is that it looks like it died a week ago, right? If I found this, I wouldn't look twice, to be honest. I'd be like, ugh, then I'd keep walking, you know, one of those. This bird froze 48,000 years ago. It's a long time, he's been dead. RIP 1,000 times, my little dude. Studying the bird's DNA has given researchers insight on the end of the last ice age. We love it, we love new info in the shape of dirty old birds. Nice. Number 7, ice worms. This is the Dune sequel you didn't know you wanted. Here we go. Around 24,000 years ago, these rotifers, or wheel creatures, or ice worms, they live in freshwater environments. They've been on our planet for millions of years, so it was only a matter of time before they came back to life. Yeah, that's their secret, Cap. They're immortal. Researchers have been studying these little guys for a while, and in the past they found that modern rotifers could freeze and then come back to life 10 years later. Yeah, a microscopic worm with a buzzsaw as a mouth can come back to life. The more you know. Hit that thumbs up on Most Amazing Top 10. I'm so scared. A year ago, these Ice Age worms were found 12 feet deep under permafrost in Siberia's Alizaya River. These ones came back to life after 24,000 years. Must be some Tuck Everlasting water around them or something. I don't know. They're built different. Number 6, viruses. Before we get into the mummified mammoth cubs, we gotta talk about some concerning finds, of course. Just over a year ago in China, scientists discovered ancient viruses. These samples came from the Tibetan Plateau, and these samples were originally collected back in 2015. The contents, however, they date back to around 14,400 years ago, long before Captain America went into the ice. This is some ancient stuff right here. So dust, gases, and of course viruses over that long accumulate, and glaciers just soak it all in, layer after layer, just growing, getting bigger and stronger. Well, not necessarily anymore, but you get it. That is until scientists come in with a few mega drills. Now we're finding dinosaurs, and it's fascinating. Except for, you know, when you find 33 ancient viruses in the ice. We don't like that. Yeah, 33 viruses. That's like 2 more than my family computer had growing up. That's a lot of viruses. 4 of these viruses typically infect bacteria, and the rest were novel, which means that it's never been seen before. How neat is that? Novel viruses. Just what the world needs, right? Oh, God. Number 5, preserved wolf pup. This little lady went into the ice 57,000 years ago. I bet she had no idea she'd ever see the sun again until now. Here we go. Discovered in Yukon, Canada, Zur is the most complete wolf mummy that has ever been found in history. Ever. She's incredibly intact. She was discovered in 2016 by a gold miner while they were blasting water at frozen mud. They thought it was treasure, but really it was just this little shiny lady instead. She's quite old to us, but when she went into the ice, x-rays tell us she was only 6 weeks old. It's pretty sad. X-rays also showed that she loved fish. She had a belly full of fish. She was eating good until she froze. Sad. Number 4, underneath Thwaites Glacier. We've seen some fascinating stuff here on Most Amazing Top 10, specifically underwater footage. I can't do that, but they love giving me those lists. I get nice and anxious doing those ones. This is footage from the bottom of an Antarctic glacier. This is incredible. This is something we shouldn't have been able to see in our lifetime. This glacier is the size of Florida, okay? So if it collapses, our sea levels could rise 10 feet. So yeah, let's drill a hole through the middle and see what happens. We love it, all in the name of science. This was back in 2019. Researchers drilled 2,300 feet through the Thwaites Glacier and dropped a robot with a camera down. This is the first time in history we've seen the grounding zone of Thwaites Glacier. Lead scientist Brittany Schmidt says this project is a dream come true. It's her walking on the moon moment. There's only 1 meter of space between the bottom of the glacier and the rocky seafloor. So you're seeing the bottom of a continent, basically, like in Smash Bros, the very bottom of that floating arena. That's it, right here, underwater. I'm so scared. I feel so small looking at this. Would you swim underneath it, Chris? No, I wouldn't either. I would do this and then go back. Screw that. Yo, it's deep too, and it's like, literally like it's like a triangle at the bottom, and it's like you see the ocean floor is like right there. I'm like, this is actually really scary. It gets my heart going. I can't do this. I'm afraid of lakes and fish and ghosts. Number 3, Europa Cryobot. We've talked about Jupiter's moon on this channel often for some reason. Apparently there's a lot of going on up there. But now we found traces of water on the icy shell of the moon, which is fascinating in general because water in space, I mean, hello, have you seen Alien or Aliens or any movie in space? The part that really has NASA's attention here is the tectonic activity beneath the icy shell, meaning that somewhere in the middle there could be warm water flowing. Yeah, there's a spa. You could just float. There's a lazy river on this moon. We love it. One of the only ways to get under that thick shell of ice and find out what's really going on is Valkyrie. Yeah, not the superhero from Thor. She's a cryobot that NASA created specifically for this mission. Yeah, a little pricey, but she's doing the trick. This machine is capable of melting through layers and layers of ice. A prototype was tested recently in Alaska and the results were promising because, you know, it worked. So yeah. This cryobot is capable of crawling through 8 kilometers of ice a year. So while we do tests here on Earth, we're just gonna keep finding more fascinating mummies or disgusting scary things like viruses. One of the two, it's science, hey, we're doing our best. Number 2, Project Iceworm. This one has no actual worms in it, just so you know, that was the gross one up there. This is more of a government one, here we go. As a Canadian, this secret project sounds like the worst one on this list. It's so cold. I'm sick of the cold. Had it. Back in the 1960s, under the Greenland ice sheet, the US Army started to build mobile nuclear missile launch sites. Yeah, codename was Project Iceworm. And now we're still finding a whole bunch of gadgets and bad stuff there, so they didn't do a great job cleaning up. The idea here with the project is that they would be close enough they could hit targets within the Soviet Union, right? That was the whole point. This project was called Project Iceworm, but there was also another project, a little secret one, called Camp Sentry. This one had to be done first. Camp Sentry was a network of underground tunnels and places for workers to stay, like a kitchen, a hall, supply rooms, communication centers, all good stuff like that. There's also a nuclear power plant, and this was kept from the Danish government for 7 years. So yeah, some secret nuclear activity. We always gotta talk about that on Most Amazing Top 10. Back in 1966, the project was canceled because of shifting ice. Or was it? There's still some activity going on over there. No one knows what's up. Thought I'd get that in your ear before we do our big bad number 1. Here we go. And finally, coming in at number 1, preserved mammoth cub. In 2010, a mummified mammoth cub was discovered in Siberia, right off the coast of Oyogos. Named after a nearby village, Yuka, the newfound cub is now the best preserved mammoth discovered in history. This was a fascinating find that should have never been seen again, let alone seen in such great condition. Guy looks like he was in Ice Age, like the movie Ice Age. He looks great. But that's not the end for the woolly mammoth. No, it was announced only months ago that a team of scientists and entrepreneurs over at a company called Colossal are planning to bring the colossal woolly mammoth back to life. Here we go. Imagine driving and you see one of these crossing the street, you're like, I guess we'll wait. The last mammoth to walk on the planet was alive around 10,500 years ago. But what if they were alive today? What's the whole point, right? Why are we doing this? Colossal raised over $15 million and they're now working on reviving the woolly mammoth to ideally decelerate the melting of the Arctic permafrost and to ideally save modern elephants from extinction and of course to advance CRISPR editing because, you know, we can. Why not? Hey, let's bring this back to life because CRISPR editing, the classic CRISPR.
Coming in strong at number 10, we have zombie worms. Wow. Worms frozen for over 40,000 years were found in the melting Siberian permafrost. As the Earth warms up, tiny nematodes were discovered, having been officially dead for 42,000 years. Guess what? When the frozen worms were warmed up, they came back to life. Now scientists are studying them to see exactly how they managed to survive such a lengthy freeze. Answers could help us with our own journey to viable medical freezing. Also, this isn't the last you'll hear about the good old permafrost and its Pandora's box of uglies. Stay tuned. Coming in at number 9, I actually think this is really weirdly cute. We have an ancient woolly mammoth. Yeah, I do really find this dead animal carcass cute, and I don't know what that means for me. Found in a Siberian ice tomb, the surprisingly intact and hairy carcass dates back 39,000 years, and the most amazing thing is that it actually still had blood in its veins, which means that maybe, just maybe, one day we could clone it. Can you even imagine? From this discovery, we could bring back woolly mammoths, fluffy elephants. I'm here for them. Woolly mammoths mostly died out 10,000 years ago, but some were walking the earth as recently as 4,000 years ago. The female mammoth was found in the New Siberian Islands area and has gone on tour in parts of the world so people can see a slice of the history it represents. Anyone else find it cute? Let me know. Coming in at number 8, we have the mystery circles. Whoa, take a look at these circles. Who made them? Was it aliens? I feel like the answer is always probably aliens. Before we talk about the circles and exactly who made them, I want to talk to you about the frozen lake on which they were found. This is Lake Baikal, the deepest lake in the world and the holder of 22% of the Earth's fresh water. Lake Baikal is 1,642 meters deep, so as you can imagine there are all kinds of hidden fishy mysteries in there. Half of the year the lake is very frozen, and in 2010 mystery ice circles appeared, sparking alien conspiracies. In the end, it turns out the circles were the work of an artist called Jim Denovan, who said that actually it was the largest work of its kind in the world. While this may not have been the work of aliens, it does seem that the lake has been producing naturally occurring strange circles that have been noted by astronauts on the International Space Station. As of yet, we don't have an answer for those. We're back with the permafrost at number 7. We have good old anthrax. What fresh hell is lurking under the thawing permafrost? Oh, anthrax. Good. Great. In 2016, one boy died after contracting anthrax, and 250,000 reindeer had to be culled. This was all when an ancient strain of the deadly substance was unleashed in Siberia. Where did it come from? Everyone's favourite mystery bag, the permafrost. It seems with global warming, ancient viruses that have laid dormant under ice for thousands of years are being unleashed once again, and we have no modern cures. Hip hip hooray. While we know modern day anthrax, ancient strains are quite different. Also, we kind of have an understanding of anthrax, but it's heavily speculated that there are all kinds of hellish pathogens that we haven't met yet. We haven't seen them as modern humans, so being exposed to them could be very dangerous. If we were now suddenly exposed to them, we could get deathly ill from sicknesses that we don't yet have cures to. Coming in at number 6, we have meteor rocks. Can you imagine a fireball from space breaking up and raining hot rocks from the sky? Honestly, that would be crazy. So in 2013, a meteor exploded over the small town of Larissa Vybayakova in Siberia. The impact blew out windows and made for quite the racket, but the people of the town got very excited. They were quick to go out foraging in the snow for the space rocks and were keen to sell them in excess of thousands of American dollars. Now, according to an article in the New York Times, under Russian law, a person can gain legal title to a meteorite, but only if it's reported to the authorities and submitted to a lab for tests. Now, the laboratory will charge 20% of the estimated value of the object for certification. Who knows what little slices of space that these rocks are containing? Could there be signs of alien life? Oh, back once again. Hello, permafrost. What have you got for us this time? Coming in at number 5, we have mercury. Mercury is a deadly substance, and should it enter the food chain, well, it wouldn't be good. It seems that the world's largest reservoir of mercury is currently frozen in Siberia. As our mate the permafrost melts, a motherload of mercury is waiting to be unleashed and pollute the environment. Mercury poisoning can cause brain issues and birth defects. The amount of mercury in the permafrost regions is 10 times higher than mercury introduced to the atmosphere from burning coal over the last 30 years, just to give you some perspective. Coming in at number 4, we have the doorway to the underworld. Near the Yana River basin in Siberia, there is a super big crater, and honey is just getting bigger. Why? Well, it seems like the ice around it is melting, making the land erode. Now, this has come as a result of deforestation. The ground is no no longer shaded by trees, which means it gets a full beat of the sun in the summer months, meaning accelerating melting. Officially called the Batagayka crater, locals call it the doorway to the underworld and they avoid it like the plague. As it keeps on growing, maybe that's a good shout, although that being said, the earth underneath it has been frozen for thousands of years. As the ground thaws, there are probably some really interesting and no doubt scary discoveries to be made in the pit. Hello there, at number 3 we have an alien! Aliens in Russia. Honestly, sounds like a really good band name. I'm gonna write that down. It seems in October 2017 a man discovered what appeared to be a dead alien buried in the snow. The extraterrestrial hunter filmed the incident and sold the footage to a Russian TV channel. It received national news coverage and people were very excited, but understandably quite concerned. Luckily for us, it was uploaded to YouTube so you can see all the bluish, yellowish looking mutated corpse for yourself. Do you want to look? Don't say I never treat you. Ugh, I don't like that. Really grim. So it turns out the Russian Interior Ministry waded in and called the video a hoax, sensationally claiming that actually the corpse was made up using mulched up bread and chicken skin. Ugh. But I have to say, could there be another reason the Kremlin is calling the footage a hoax? Maybe Russia knows about aliens, has aliens, and they don't want us to know about it. Conspiracies with Rebecca. You're welcome. Coming in at number 2 we have the monster. What is this monster all about? I have no idea. This monster was found by miners in the Sakha Republic area of Siberia. It appears to be some kind of small, unidentified mummified beast with a bird-like stance and fangs. I don't like fangs. As we know, plenty of ancient animals have been found in Siberia, but at the moment we have no idea what on earth this wee beastie could be. Scientists working with the carcass believe it can be dated back to the Mesozoic era, which would put it anywhere between 66 million and 252 million years old. By the look of this fanged monster, I'm honestly quite glad I wasn't alive back in those days. Yes, I have saved the scariest till number 1. You're welcome. It's 54 severed heads. Brilliant. Okay, warning, this is actually pretty grim, so if you want to look away, do it. I don't blame you. So in March 2018, a bag containing 54 severed frozen heads was found in the snow near the Siberian city of, I'm gonna try and pronounce it, Khabarovsk. You're probably watching from Siberia thinking, no, that's not how you say it, Rebecca, but I'm thinking the important thing here is the 54 severed heads. So first up, 1 hand was found, and then 27 pairs of hands all lined up in a row in the snow. Now, if the dismembered body parts were part of some kind of Easter egg hunt, it was all just the beginning. It all led to the bag of severed heads. Now, if you don't want to see the severed hands, maybe close your eyes now because I do want to show you a picture. Bandages and hospital-style plastic shoe covers were reportedly found with the grisly haul. Were these the hands and heads of murder victims, or is there another explanation? Theories in the local media say that they could be discarded waste from medical students. Honestly, whatever it is, why were they arranged in rows like that? I don't like it, it makes me feel queasy. Take it back, Siberia. I don't want any of this.
Next up at number 9 now we have the abandoned huts. On November 1st, 1911, British explorer Robert Falcon Scott departed from Cape Evans on his Terra Nova expedition, trying to become the first human to reach the South Pole. They made it to the South Pole, but sadly they found they had been beaten to it by a group of Norwegians led by Amundsen. The team faced unusually bad weather on their return journey and tragically died before they could even reach their hut with all of their supplies. The hut was used by another team in 1917, but after that it was abandoned. For years it was slowly covered in ice and snow until 1956 when a US expeditionary party dug it out. It was found to be in a remarkably well preserved state. The beds were as they left them, so too were their scientific instruments. Canned food still sits on the shelves. A London newspaper from that time is on one of the desks. The frozen and dry environment of Antarctica have preserved a lot of things, but decay does still occur there. Visitors to the Discovery Hut discovered the now century-old seal meat as smelling quite rancid, and some people thought that the huts themselves are now affected by fungal decay. Moving on to number 8 now, we have bacteria. In 2008, scientists managed to revive bacterium extracted from Antarctic ice that was 8 million years old. You heard me right, 8 million years. Right away, many people became concerned. Was this a danger? It sounded a bit like the start of a Hollywood movie where the bacteria goes on to wipe out the whole of humanity. The scientists assured the public though that there was nothing to worry about and that the bacteria was unlikely to cause human diseases. You'll note that they said unlikely though. It's not definitely impossible. This bacteria is is so old that when it came into existence 8 million years ago, the common ancestor of humans and chimpanzees was alive on the planet. So, how are these things still alive? Well, Paul Falowski of Rutgers University described the bacteria as having been in a suspended state of animation for 8 million years, and that global warming melting glaciers could result in the release of more ancient organisms into the sea. Next up at number 7 now, we have the pyramid. In November 2016, the internet was abuzz with talk of a pyramid that had been found buried in the Antarctic ice. Now before you dismiss this as nonsense, take a look at this picture. Yeah, that does look a lot like a pyramid. It was first discovered by the British Antarctic expedition of 1910 to 1913. They were stunned by its appearance and decided to name it the Pyramid, a name still used on geological surveys of the area. It's located in the Ellsworth Mountains, which is a range more than 400 kilometers long. The pyramid is one of the peaks of this mountain range. Naturally, you know what I'm going to say next. Many conspiracy theorists stated that this is proof of an ancient civilization that lived on Antarctica before being consumed by the ice and their existence covered up by today's governments. Of course, experts have dismissed all of this, saying that pyramids are not a complicated shape and are not an uncommon appearance in nature. What do you guys think? Next up at number 6 now, we have the lake. Lake Vostok is one of the biggest lakes on the planet. If you've never heard of it, don't worry, that's probably because Lake Vostok is buried underneath more than 2 miles of ice in Antarctica. It's been covered in ice for at least 15 million years, but it's still liquid down there. The crushing layer of ice from above and geothermal activity below have ensured that. Its presence was first suggested in the 1960s by a Russian pilot who noticed a large smooth patch of ice above the lake from the air. Radar experiments by British and Russian researchers in 1996 confirmed the lake's existence. The lake is massive, 143 miles long, 31 miles wide, and up to 2,625 feet deep. In 2012, Russian scientists managed to successfully drill a hole down to the lake's water. They believe that down there is microbial life that is unique from everything else here on Earth, having been isolated for 15 million years. Now the search begins. Next up at number 5 now, we have Allen Hills 84001. In 1984, a team of US meteorite hunters discovered a Martian meteorite in Antarctica's ice. It was only about 4.3 pounds, but by 1996 it was causing quite a stir when a group of scientists claimed they had found evidence of microscopic life in the actual meteorite. Was this proof of life on Mars, or at least that life used to be on Mars because they thought it was fossilized? The media went into a frenzy either way. Even US President Bill Clinton gave a speech about it. The hysteria was because the strange chain structures on that meteorite looked like they could have been fossilized bacteria. There was also the fact that the meteorite broke off from Mars about 17 million years ago, during a time when Mars had liquid water on its surface and carbon dioxide in its atmosphere. It seemed like life could have been around then. Eventually these claims were rejected though, and the features of the meteorite were explained without requiring life to be present. The meteorite now remains on display in the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History. Moving on to number 4 now, we have the dinosaur. In February 2019, the fossil of a new species of reptile was announced. It had been found by researchers in the Antarctic ice during a 2010-2011 expedition. It's believed to be an early relative of dinosaurs who lived in Antarctica millions of years before the continent drifted to its position over the South Pole and became uninhabitable for most complex life forms. Around 250 million years ago, Antarctica was covered in lush forests and rivers with many species of wildlife living there, including reptiles. The temperature is thought to have almost never dropped below freezing point. The scientists named the iguana-sized reptile Antarctanax shackletoni. Antarctanax translates to Antarctic King, and Shackletoni is in honor of the Antarctic explorer Ernest Shackleton. Moving on to number 3 now, we have patchy mass. In June 2018, YouTube user Wow4Real made a video showing his discovery of a 14-mile structure buried in Antarctica. He made the discovery using Google Maps and described it as a patchy mass that you could easily see from outer space. He said he'd used Google Maps to search the entire continent before and had never found anything like this. He even pointed out that there were strange brush strokes over the mass, which made him think someone was trying to cover this up. It didn't take long before people started speculating about what was going on here. The YouTuber himself put forward the idea that if the brush effect was removed, perhaps perhaps we'd see some sort of giant UFO mothership buried in ice. In all probability, it's probably just a research facility, but we still don't know for sure yet, as this strange block still remains on Google Maps to this day. You can even go and see it for yourself. Coming in at number 2 now, we have the wreckage. In January 2013, 3 Canadian men took off in a plane from the Amundsen Scott South Pole Research Station en route to an Italian research base in Terra Nova Bay. At some point during the journey, the emergency transmitter went off and a search party was sent out to find them. Bad weather hampered rescue efforts, and after 6 days they finally found the plane, but it was too late to save them. It had crashed into one of Antarctica's highest mountains. The rescue team were unable to get into the cockpit and were only able to retrieve some luggage. After 4 hours there, they determined it was too risky to stay any longer, as the weather was taking a serious turn for the worse and they were afraid of an avalanche occurring. It took 9 months before another team set out during Antarctica's summer period to retrieve the frozen remains of the 3 Canadian men. And finally, at number 1 now, we have Endurance. We talked about the explorer Shackleton earlier. Well, Endurance was the name of the ship that he used to go to Antarctica in the first place. The ship was abandoned by Shackleton and his team when she was crushed by ice in the Weddell Sea off Antarctica, causing her to sink. In the years since then, there have been 3 expeditions that have tried and failed to locate Endurance. In 2018, that changed though. A team at the Scott Polar Research Institute launched a new search using more sophisticated technology, such as GPS and drones, to help them see possible routes in the ice. They also used an autonomous underwater vehicle. The video you're watching right now was released in February 2019, and according to what I've read, the search for Endurance is happening at this moment, looking for a ship thousands of feet beneath the frigid waves. I thought I'd end on this one because it's not been discovered quite yet, and that's kind of exciting. There's a lot more to uncover in the incredible world of Antarctica.
Kicking off the list at number 10, Arctic hyenas. Only a few years ago, scientists discovered teeth. Yeah, how fun is that? Ancient teeth from Arctic hyenas. Lovely. Now, when you think of hyenas, you would never imagine that they once roamed over Europe and Asia 5 million years ago, right? That's not what we think about when we imagine them scary and drooling in our brains. Remains from these Arctic beasts have been found all over the world, not just the Yukon permafrost. Evolutionary biologist Jack Sung studies prehistoric carnivores, and he knew within minutes that these recent Yukon molars belonged to Arctic hyenas, aka Chasmoporthetes. Number 9, frozen treasure. As far as frozen treasure goes, this is a very recent discovery. We don't find these often or ever, as a matter of fact. Yeah, treasure frozen in ice. This sounds like something from Ocarina of Time. I'm so excited. Back in 2013, an anonymous mountain climber, can't imagine why they chose to stay hidden, they stumbled across a box filled with jewels jammed in the ice. Yeah, hear what I just said, a box of jewels in ice. They had to like breathe on it a bit, melt it up, and then finally pull it out. But alas, once they reported it to the French officers, this box contained around 100 precious gems. Precious gems. This was quite the find. Emeralds, sapphires, rupees, you name it. The box was worth 300,000 US dollars, roughly. I find a 20 on the ground, I'm calling in sick. Game over. Where did this treasure come from? Well, since it was discovered on Mont Blanc, officials were able to trace the lost gems back to an Air India flight that crashed on the mountain back in 1966. The lives of 117 passengers were sadly lost, and because of the conditions, it's been next to impossible to recover anything from the mountain, especially that long ago, right? Somehow these family gems were able to see the light again, and yes, before you even ask, the owner did return the gems. Only the thing is, 2 families claimed the goods, so someone's not telling their truth, my friend. Someone's lying. That means lying, right? I never knew what that meant. I don't know, I saw someone do it and I was like, I like that sound. Interestingly enough, in 2014, a French treasure hunter named Daniel Roche found 50 more pieces of jewelry from the same glacier. So yeah, the world's melting, but we're also finding gold, so Number 8, Western camel bones. Scientific name being Camelops hesternus. It's a Harry Potter spell, turns into a camel. Camelops hesternus. Meaning yesterday's camel in Latin. These bones first appeared in 2008 when gold miners were working in Hunter Creek, just 60 miles away from the Alaskan border, when they suddenly stumbled across these massive bones. The last time these bones were operating, I guess attached to some meat, was 75 to 125,000 years ago. The remains were in such great condition because of the awful surrounding conditions, right? It was so cold that scientists could still extract DNA. And that DNA told us that 10 million years ago, roughly, Western camels split from modern day camels. They were like, hey, it's not working out. You got the 2-hump thing, I got the 1-hump. It's cold, you're hot, I don't know. I never called the imaginary camel hot, but here we are. That thumbs up for hot camels. Number 7, blood red waterfalls. I'm sure you've seen this at some point, so I have to of course mention in a part 2. If I came across this in the wild, I would be quite alarmed. I would ask some questions as well. On the southern side of our planet, there's a waterfall in Antarctica that is blood red. The edge of Taylor Glacier houses this one-of-a-kind waterfall. It pours right into Lake Bonny. Now, millions of years ago, when sea levels rose up, glaciers formed at the top of said lake. So this melting water that's slowly leaking out from, a quarter-mile deep, this water is 3 times saltier and apparently 3 times scarier. When the iron-rich water reaches the air, it looks bloody, therefore scary. I'll put my hands back down now. Let's move on. Number 6, giant beaver skull. So the Yukon permafrost, it's a hot spot. Ironically, it seems, for fossils. Lots of ancient animals stuck in time and in great condition, luckily for us. Scientific name for this one is Castorides ohianus. Sure. That sounded like the closest it'll ever be. This giant beaver was on average larger than us humans. They were massive. As Jurassic Park as this thing looks, it only ate pondweeds, which is pretty hilarious. You would think otherwise looking at it, right? One of the largest rodents in history, and they were probably just really cute, and they ate little plants. 50,000 years ago, they didn't chomp on trees. Just weeds. Nice, we like that. Go eat all the weeds. I hate when they touch my feet when I'm swimming in lakes. Like others on this list, they eventually moved north. They followed the ideal conditions to survive in, and that led them ultimately to their icy grave that is now the Yukon permafrost, where we go, wow, more teeth. Number 5, Antarctica Pyramid. Over on our History channel, Bumblebee, I talk about the pyramids of Egypt a lot. Maybe a little too much. Once I heard about pyramids in Antarctica, I had to know what was going on. Back in 2016, a mountain in Antarctica was trending online, and we all immediately thought that it was evidence of an ancient civilization, because that's what we want to see, right? That's what we're all waiting for. We're like, James Webb, please show us something scary. Eric Rignot, a professor of Earth System Sciences at the University of California, reached out to Live Science when this was all unfolding, adding that, quote, pyramid shapes are not impossible. Many peaks partially look like pyramids, but they only have 1 or 2 faces like that. Rarely 4. Yeah, that's all it is, just a natural pyramid. Or maybe it's aliens, who knows? I'm leaning towards the latter of the two. Number 4, 90 million year old rainforest. Back in 2020, while we were all catching up on Ozark, disappointing finale, fossil traces in West Antarctica were found. Now this time it wasn't a giant beaver or a bloody waterfall from back in time, I don't know. This time it was kinda nice. This time it was an ancient rainforest. 90 million years ago, when dinosaurs were once walking around, Antarctica was once a paradise. Right? What a sight to see. Researchers compare Antarctica in the Cretaceous period to New Zealand today, right? It was hot, it was gorgeous, with most days on an average of 12 degrees Celsius, like Seattle, right? Some hot days and then some Seattle days. I love how scientists compare eras with modern day city temperatures. Oh, the Ice Age? Oh, a lot of Regina energy there. Yeah, a lot of Western Canada, very cold, not ideal for dinosaurs. But apparently it was a paradise, so we missed out. So cold. Number 3, meteorite. For this one, we're gonna switch it up, right? Taylor McWaters, I like to jazz it up every now and then. This time, scientists found ice in a meteorite, not rock and ice. Yeah, a little flip flip. That's always a good time. James Webb is about to show us how much water is in space, and personally, I'm not ready for it. Back in 1990, the Actor 094 meteorite was discovered in the Algerian mountains. The rock was dated back to 4.6 billion years ago, so scientists studied the meteorite with synchrotron radiation-based X-ray nanotomography. That sentence was choppy because I couldn't say it all in one go, obviously. This led scientists to find evidence of tiny pores. Pores believed to have been fossilized ice crystals. Now these pores may have come from when the meteorite crossed this snow line out in space. The snow line is a sphere around the sun, and it's the exact point where ice on meteorites melts, right? That's the snow line, the more you know. This study was to hopefully find out where water comes from in the galaxy, and it seems that it came from a lot further than we all thought. I got goosebumps saying that, I didn't like that. James Webb stuff today, I'm like, oh, we're so small. Number 2, Grasshopper Glacier. Yeah, if you're not a fan of bugs, you can go ahead and skip to number 1. I won't take it personally. I'll save some bits for that one too. A glacier in Montana is home to many grasshoppers and locusts. Yeah, locusts. It's a fun word. Imagine heading to a glacier and you forget bug spray. Ah, what a fool you are. Appropriately named Grasshopper Glacier, the mile-long glacier near Crook City holds the remains of extinct grasshoppers. Yeah, they're not alive, don't worry. They're just frozen and then stuck looking at you like this. That's better. These poor guys were traveling to find new life, and they must have got caught up in a blizzard a long time ago. Now they're stuck here for another few hundred years. This reminds me of those suckers that have a gross bug in the center, you know? It's like a Bug. Why do people buy those? I would never buy them, that's so gross. Number 1, fish eat fish. If you know anything about me, is that I'm not a fan of lakes. Not at all, no. Oceans, sure, if I can see my feet, we're grooving, okay, we're laughing. If I'm looking down in goggles and I can't see shit, I'm out of the lake. I don't even strap them on my head, I just put my eyes in them and rest them on the water. This video went viral not too long ago and it's very real. These two brothers were fishing on Indiana's Wawasee Lake and they saw a pike eating a bass, only both parties were completely still. Both parties were already dead. Both were completely frozen. How epic. What happened? How are they stuck like this? They posted the photo originally and nobody believed that it was real, so they had to follow up and post a video where they actually removed this scene of events from the ice. Yeah, I would think this is fake too. This looks like a life lesson somewhere that has to be told. Just a fish eating a fish frozen, you know? There's bigger fish out there. There's smaller fish out there. Sometimes fish freeze. I don't know, I'll do like 9 more. I don't know what the message is.
Number 10, dinosaur. When it comes to big things, dinosaurs were pretty damn big. Scientists were able to uncover the fossilized remains of a new and unknown species of dinosaur underneath the ice sheets in Greenland. When the dinosaurs were alive, the Earth was a lot warmer and more tropical, these fossils becoming trapped under the ice when the climate changed into the Ice Age. The skull they found is thought to be a 2-legged plant-eating dinosaur of medium size, and they dubbed the new species Issy-Sinique. The dinosaur is believed to have grown to the size of 10 to 30 feet, and the skull they found is thought to be that of a younger dinosaur that had not fully grown yet. They used computer technology to create 3D scans of the head before sending the specimens to the Natural History Museum in Denmark, as they have sovereignty over the country of Greenland. It is the first known dinosaur to have been native to Greenland and is thought to come from the late Triassic period around 200 million years ago. Number 9, bison. The massive carcass of a bison known as a steppe bison was found by a gold mining family in Alaska way back in 1979. They were using a mining hose and were melting a frozen block of ice, effectively thawing out the creature that had become trapped inside. The bison species is from the Ice Age, and the body that they found is thought to be tens of thousands of years old. Once they were finally able to fully excavate the body, they found other things alongside it, including hair, insects, wood, and different plants. When the pelt of the animal reacted to the soil around it, it turned the body blue, and so the bison ended up being dubbed Blue Babe. Analysis of the body showed it had died 36,000 years ago, a result of being attacked by an Ice Age lion. The ice allowed the creature to be incredibly well preserved, scientists even being able to find pockets of blood in the body. Number 8, cave bear. This specimen found on an island in the Arctic was a very unique discovery, said to be one of the first of its kind. Researchers found a well-preserved body of a cave bear that was around 40,000 years old. Cave bears would grow to be around 7 feet long and typically weighed over 1,000 pounds in their adulthood. Before this discovery was made, they only knew about the animal from skulls and bones, and had never found a specimen that was this fully preserved. The body that they found had all of its organs still, and even still had its nose on its face, paired with its terrifyingly massive sharp teeth. According to one of Russia's leading Ice Age experts, the discovery of the body was of world importance and is the first and only find of its kind. The body was found by a group of reindeer herders on the island and was then sent around to various scientists to study the life of the animal. Number 7, horned lark. Alright, some of these creatures aren't that big, but they're still pretty interesting, and size doesn't matter anyways. In 2018, fossil hunters were in the northeastern part of Siberia, known as the Pole of Cold, and they were tunneling into the permafrost. Deep underground, they discovered the body of a bird thought to be around 46,000 years old, but it was incredibly well preserved, and scientists say that it looks like it could have only died a few days ago. Researchers believe that it is the ancestor of the horned lark bird and is the first of its kind to have ever been discovered. It is also said to be one of the best preserved specimens ever discovered, as it was almost completely intact and still had all of its parts. The Ice Age that took place is thought to have generated many new species who adapted, and this is one of them. Siberia is home to a lot of frozen discoveries due to its freezing cold temperatures, and who knows what else is sitting in the ice, just waiting to be found. Number 6, wolf. The Pleistocene era, or Ice Age, lasted from about 2 million to 11,000 years ago, and many great extinct creatures we've discovered come from this era. One of these discoveries was the head of a massive Ice Age era wolf that was still snarling 40,000 years after it had died. It was found in a cold region of Russia and is one of the first full-sized frozen wolves ever to be discovered. They found it in the summer of 2018 and it was described as having mammoth-like fur, sharp fangs, and was between the ages of 2 and 4 when it passed away. Because only the head was discovered, it only gave small clues towards the evolution of wolves and how they have changed and adapted over the years, but researchers were still able to reconstruct the head using 3D models and get a solid understanding of what these Ice Age wolves looked like. In fact, the specimen was so well preserved that it even still had parts of its brain. Number 5. Lion cubs. As I've mentioned before, Siberia is a place that is fairly popular for finding frozen specimens, and this time they didn't just find one animal, but instead 2 matching ones. They found 2 mummified cave lions that lived during the Ice Age around 30,000 years ago, giving them the names Sparta and Boris. They were found in 2017 and 2018 by mammoth tusk collectors, and one of the cubs was believed at the time to be the best preserved Ice Age animal ever found. It was originally thought that the 2 cubs they discovered were siblings, being only a few months old at the time of their death, but research showed that Boris had actually died about 15,000 years before Sparta. Sparta still had her fur, teeth, skin, organs, and even her whiskers, looking like she may have only recently died despite being a part of a species that went extinct over 10,000 years ago. If given the chance to grow up, the cubs would have managed to grow to 5 feet long and weigh almost 1,000 pounds. Number 4. Sharks. Creatures that are found frozen in ice don't always actually come from the Ice Age. There are plenty of cold places right now where animals can unfortunately become trapped, or pass away and then freeze. In Cape Cod, Massachusetts, it has become startlingly common for giant sharks to become frozen in the ice off the coast. A few years ago, they found a total of 4 different sharks that had all become frozen in the ice and passed away. The sharks were apparently becoming trapped in shallow waters during changing weather conditions, and sudden cold snaps would cause them to freeze and die. The thresher sharks that were commonly becoming trapped were apparently not a very well studied species, so the bodies that were found were taken and thawed in order to be dissected and researched. The Atlantic White Shark Conservancy even went so far to refer to the specimens as sharksicles, but probably not something you'd want to eat on a hot day in the summer. Number 3. Mummies. Human remains are usually found when archaeologists dig up large graves and find skeletons, but in a rare case they managed to find the well-preserved and mummified body of a woman. A group of hikers exploring an Argentinian volcano found the body of a woman who appeared to have died around 500 years ago. The body was well preserved due to the incredibly high and cold elevation at which it was found. It's believed that the body was there as part of an ancient sacrificial ritual, and the woman, named the Inca Ice Maiden, was sacrificed. She was given lots of food and drink before being led up the volcano, where she was left to die of exposure. The discovery of her body was also incredibly important because from samples they took, they were able to discover that she was fighting tuberculosis, and these sorts of samples can help us work towards fighting these diseases in the modern day. Number 2. Foal. In the summer of 2018, they found what they called the best preserved Ice Age animal ever found. Feels like they say that a lot. Anyways, mammoth tusk hunters in Siberia found the body of an around 42,000-year-old horse foal, incredibly well preserved thanks to the cold temperatures. They say that it was only about 2 weeks old at the time of its death, and they were able to extract both blood and urine samples from it. The discovery apparently pushed scientists closer to the hope that they could bring these extinct creatures like mammoths back to life. I think we should listen to Jurassic Park's warnings and just deal with the animals we actually have right now. I know you might be thinking that a baby horse isn't some terrifying giant Ice Age creature, but full-grown horses are pretty big, okay, and they're actually kind of terrifying. I mean, they basically walk on one giant finger. It's creepy, and I don't like it. Number 1. Baby mammoth. During the Ice Age, mammoths were one of the biggest creatures around, basically being massive furry elephants. This young woolly mammoth specimen was found in, you guessed it, Siberia. This incredibly well-preserved body of a young female woolly mammoth named Yuka is said to have lived around 28,000 years ago, and they were discovered around a decade ago. Due to her good condition, scientists were eager to conduct experiments, and one of those was taking cells from her body. When they put the cells together, they found that they were still active, even almost 30,000 years later, so they managed to technically revive Yuka in a way. At full size, woolly mammoths were usually around 13 feet tall and would weigh around 13,000 pounds, or the same as around 26,000 large oranges if that helps you picture it.
Filling our number 7 slot are the Roman artifacts. It's always cool when you find something miles away from its origin because figuring out why and how it was transported is fun in and of itself. Or is that just me? Am I just lame? Let me know. The Scimitar Pass is a route that links two alpine valleys together and is usually used by people going from Italy to the north. Scientists also believe the pass has been used for thousands of years, so a fair amount of trash has collected there over time from all of us. The so-called trash they're talking about is not trash at all. They're actually objects and artifacts which distinctly corresponds to a certain period in time. A bunch of artifacts hailing from the Roman Empire were found there, a belt for a tunic, shoe nails, coins, and even cloak pins. They think perhaps ruins that are located near the place they found the artifacts could have been an old Roman settlement or outpost. I know this one might just sound like a really boring history lesson to a lot of you, but it's just interesting to imagine like, oh, a Roman soldier was probably really far away from home, walking through the blistering cold to get to England or Germany or wherever, and these were his coins. Like, how many hands did these coins pass through? Food for thought. Or maybe not, maybe you can just skip this point, I don't know. Now at number 6 is the Theodore Pass mercenary. The mysterious man was unidentified, but it's believed he fell into a crevice above Termat sometime in the 17th century. I mean, that's a broad range. The 17th century was a long time. A couple climbing the glacier in 1984 found his body, his sword, his daggers, pistol, and bags. The name of the exhibit his stuff is displayed in is called the Theodore Pass mercenary, which is unfortunate because if they had just waited a little bit, they would have been told by researchers that he wasn't a mercenary at all. He was most likely just a wealthy trader who was going to Switzerland from Italy. The shoehorns found in his shoes are actually the oldest shoehorns ever discovered. He also had a bunch of pocket knives and amulets on him, which begged the question of why he needed amulets all the way up in the Aletsch Glacier. I mean, what are you doing with those things, young man? Coming in at number 5 is the plane. Now this one was discovered super recently, back in August of last year. Record high temperatures caused the Goli Glacier in the Bernese Alps to rapidly melt, which revealed a crashed American C-53 Skytrooper. They found everything: the wings, the propellers, the hangars, tin cans, spoons used by passengers, and everything, albeit old, was in perfect frozen condition. Well, as perfect condition as a crashed plane could be in, so you can, you know, take that how you will. The Swiss Air Force led the plane's rescue mission in 1946, and their footprints were also perfectly preserved near the crash site. Now at number 2 is the box of treasure. Yeah, literally a box of treasure. In 2013, an anonymous mountain climber was on Mont Blanc when he found a box in the ice. And mind you, the guy was a seasoned climber and he had found tons of items in the snow before, like plane parts, wheels, pieces of mineral, etc. But he really struck gold with this discovery. The box contained 100 jewels. I'm talking sapphires, rubies, emeralds, you name it. I mean, the value of everything in there was near $300,000, give or take. He literally could have made his life right there if he had just sold them, but he decided to be a good person and hand them over to the mayor of Chamonix. We now know the origin of the box was an Air India flight that crashed in the area back in 1966. The weather was horrible and all 117 passengers died, and absolutely nothing was ever recovered except bits of wreckage here and there. While looking for the rightful owners of the box, 2 families claimed it was theirs, but authorities just aren't making it easy for them to prove it. Locals believe the mayor and the climber actually have a deal that if the rightful owner isn't found within 2 years, they'll just split the jewels 50-50, which I really don't get. If the climber was interested in 50% of it, he may have just kept the whole thing and not have told anyone about it. And finally, at number 1 is the Manitoba hiker. Now Jeff Fryer was a teacher from Manitoba who went on a 5-kilometer hike in the German Alps back in August of 2018 but never returned home. After not hearing from him, his sister Amanda got worried and his mother, best friend, and 400 other volunteers went to search for him. They ended up finding his body frozen over at the base of the Broadneck Mountain. It seemed like he had just fallen about 60 meters down and that there was no evidence of foul play on his body. Rich Manfield, a fellow rock climber who had been helping with the search, posted on YouTube saying how the area Jeff was climbing may have been smaller peak-wise compared to other places, hence it was really underestimated, but it's actually a really tough climb. As an experienced climber himself, he said the ridgeline is very precarious and it just takes one slip. If you can't recover from that one slip, you're basically done for. His body was found in a thick brush 3 kilometers away from the last location he posted on social media from. Well, at least social media is good for one thing in that regard.
In our number 10 spot, we have a frozen alien corpse. Scientists have discovered this frozen alien corpse in Russia. It was found by 2 people in Siberia after claims of a UFO came to Earth. Allegedly, it was missed by the Russian military after they cleaned up the area after the crash. The corpse was pretty damaged, but the being was 2 feet high and part of his right leg was missing. Also, apparently this particular area in Russia is a hotspot for UFO sightings, and there are a number of reports of sightings every single year. In fact, there was a sighting that reported seeing a UFO crash in the area, and so the finding of this alien corpse aligns with that sighting. Whoa, I want to go to Siberia now. If there is anyone watching from Russia, from Siberia, please tell us of any other sightings that you may have come across in the comment section below. In our number 9 spot, we have traces of potential alien DNA. Scientists have recently discovered traces of DNA outside some of the Antarctic caves, which could suggest alien life. From algae DNA to small animals, there was so much evidence to support the idea that perhaps there once was a lot more living species in Antarctica. They did not come across any animals in the caves at the time, but they still found this to be a great discovery and have reason to believe that they will discover more evidence as they continue their search, or perhaps alien life might be underneath the ice sheets as there are warm temperatures coming from underneath the sheets, and that would suggest that it might be a place they could easily live in. In our number 8 spot, we have UFO discovered. That's right, in October of 2020, satellite photos of Antarctica were taken that had many people stop in their tracks. Surrounded by ice and snow, and with some ice still on it, we see an object that looks like half of a flying saucer that is also a bit raised, casting a shadow around it. As the ice sheets continue to melt around the world, it is believed that is why it has now been revealed, and it is also believed that this is potentially an aircraft from thousands if not millions of years ago. According to experts, Antarctica would be a great place for aliens to go to because of how sterile it is, so it would make sense to land there. Of course, this is all speculation and there's nothing further on this discovery at this time. In our number 7 spot, we have the Alaskan alien. On January 3rd, 1989, NASA's Alaska York Station made a great discovery. They found an alien frozen in ice. Yep, an alien, just like you see in the movies with the great big eyes and bald head. Makes you wonder if perhaps the movies are showcasing these creatures the same because we've already discovered aliens and someone somewhere is telling illustrators to paint them a specific way. I wish I was someone that had pull to know all of this top secret information, although I guess if I was, then I wouldn't be able to make this video as I would probably have a target on my back. There is no other information on this discovery as it is considered top secret, but it is definitely a sign that alien life has been to this planet. In our number 6 spot, we have alien eggs. In 2015, it was reported that 2 friends were walking along a frozen lake in Utah when they discovered the most peculiar thing. There was a strange formation in the middle of the lake that honestly gives me shivers to look at. If you are someone that feels uncomfortable looking at a bunch of dots together or eyeballs looking at you, definitely look away. This has the same sort of displeasing effect. Small holes were seen poking out from the ice with a strange formation lying underneath them. The theories around what this is include a UFO landing spot, something that aliens left when they visited Earth, and the popular theory is alien eggs. There were some things there that were slimy, so the 2 friends left them, and that's why people believe them to be eggs. What do you think this is? guys? Let me know in the comment section below. In our number 5 spot, we have unknown frozen creatures. More frozen creatures in Siberia, you say? Yep, clearly this is an alien breeding ground of some sort. Strange creatures were recently found throughout Siberia. Many of these unknown creatures were found deceased and frozen in huge blocks of ice. There are creatures that have never been discovered which are believed to be alien, and even a species of dog was discovered that is so old it goes back to 1000 AD. Wow, well, I guess we're all going to have to plan our trip to Siberia, eh? I've always wanted to go on an alien expedition, so this is definitely where I will be going next. In our number 4 spot, we have Frozen on Mars. Okay, this one is like a little bit of a stretch, as this evidence was not found frozen on this planet, but it is evidence of alien life, and it was found on Mars, and Mars can get to a temperature of minus 60 degrees Celsius, which is way past freezing, so whatever. Imagine that this evidence was found frozen, as it could very well have been. I just can't prove that, and I wanted to share this anyway. In 1976, the Viking Mars landers detected chemical signatures that indicated potential past life on the planet, or perhaps present life. An experiment mixing soil with radioactive carbon-labeled nutrients tested positive, and even though other tests done at the time did not test positive, the original scientists and others that have reanalyzed the data still stand by the original finding. There is definitely a possibility of alien life on Mars. In our number 3 spot, we have aliens in the water. In an interview in 2017, ex-NASA scientist Alan Stern spoke about the theory of alien life underwater frozen. He mentions that aliens are bound to exist and that scientists should focus more on water worlds. When he was asked about why aliens haven't been found to date, he was quoted as saying that there are many possible explanations. The great majority of worlds with biology and civilizations are water-ocean worlds. ETs at the bottom of ocean worlds would be protected from the likes of deadly radiation from space, if their planet does not have a protective atmosphere like it does here on Earth, and exploding stars. He went on to speak about how ocean worlds are usually freezing cold, and that these aliens would be living beneath a thick sheet of ice, and that is what would make it impossible to contact them. Fascinating. I could totally see this to be true, as there's so much of the ocean that we haven't even begun to explore yet. In our number 2 spot, we have alien fossils from Antarctica. Whoa, this is a wild one. In 1996, NASA scientists announced that they came upon a meteorite that appeared to be from Mars. A fossilized microbe in a potato-shaped lump of Martian rock was how it was described. It is believed that the meteorite was possibly from Mars and blasted off in a collision and wandered the solar system for, approximately 15 million years before coming to Earth and freezing for a little while in Antarctica. After further analysis of the rock, it apparently contained organic molecules and tiny specks of mineral magnetite, as well as nanobacteria. There is much debate about whether this fully indicates alien life, but a lot of scientists believe that it does. In our number 1 spot, we have a frozen ancient civilization. In 2017, there was a whistleblower by the name of Corey Goad, who claimed that it was discovered that an ancient alien civilization is frozen and buried under 2 miles of ice in Antarctica. Apparently, this discovery was made in 1939 by a German expedition, but it was only until 2002 that archaeologists and scientists were allowed on the site. Apparently, Goad originally only knew about this secret expedition because of a USAF officer working in the program, but eventually Goad himself journeyed to Antarctica with the US Air Force to witness this secret project, where they have discovered the ruins of a 55,000-year-old alien civilization. Not much more was revealed, but hopefully in the next 10 years we will learn more about these findings. Coming up at our number 10 spot, we have a throwing spear. A throwing spear that was approximately crafted over 10,300 years ago was discovered by Dr. Craig Lee from Montana State University in 2007. It was discovered in northern Wyoming. 10,300 years ago, holy moly. Just saying that is so trippy and hard to wrap my brain around the idea of people existing at that point. But in any case, this spear at first glance appeared just like a stick, but then after closer inspection, he discovered that it was a dart from a throwing throwing spear. At this point, it is the oldest frozen artifact found yet. It's been a source of inspiration for others to continue the hunt for artifacts that are being revealed as a result of melting ice patches, and it certainly has created a sense of urgency for people to get hunting for these unbelievable items. In our number 9 spot, we have the Yukon treasures. A size 4 moccasin shoe from 1400 years ago was found melting in the Yukon, and my inner shopaholic is super excited about it. So of course I had to include it on this list. Along with the shoe, 2 other items were found: a barbed antler projectile point from about 1200 years ago, and throwing darts from 9,000 years ago. Apparently they were found by a husband and wife in 1997 who were hunting Dall sheep in the Yukon mountains when they smelt something extremely strange. It was dung. Yes, poop from a caribou. But the thing is, caribou hadn't been in this area for many years, so they decided to inspect it. Naturally? I wouldn't. Anyways, I guess they discovered that the poop was from thousands of years ago that had frozen into ice, and close behind it were these artifacts that had melted along with it. Pretty wild. In our number 8 spot, we have animal hair rope. While out exploring the mountaintops of Western Mongolia, archaeologist and researcher Isaac Hart of the University of Utah discovered something quite interesting that he felt would truly help with discovering more about the Mongolia people in ancient times. They discovered a finely woven piece of animal hair rope. This rope was first thought to have been dropped in the ice recently. However, after scientists performed some radiocarbon tests on it to see how old it was proven to be more than 1500 years old. Wow, that's some old rope. In our number 7 spot, we have horn curls. On this same trip, looking for more artifacts, Isaac Hart found some Argali sheep skulls and horn curls from 1500 years ago, which were stacked in a pile by ancient hunters, and this finding completely discounted some old assumptions about the Mongolian people in the past. They were long thought to be herding societies, but these findings show that perhaps they were big hunters on mountain ice. Wow, sometimes just talking about this just makes me feel super grateful to be alive today. Although we are all wimps now, just going outside when it's cold, you know, I'm already looking for the outdoor heater. Where's the outdoor heater? What are we in ancient times? In our number 6 spot, we have Iron Age tunic. Apparently, as Norway's glaciers begin to melt, archaeologists are beginning to uncover a ridiculous amount of ancient treasures, and some say it is about 2,000 plus items to date. One of the most notable items, in my opinion, is some recovered clothing that was found. Honestly, not one item is better than the other. They all tell a story from the past and help us better understand how mountain populations lived. But still, I think it is so cool to see that they found some clothing that's approximately from 300 AD, an Iron Age tunic to be exact. That's not that old though compared to some of the other items that were found on this dig that were approximately 4,000 years old, but still, pretty cool. And one of the older items that was found is in our number 5 spot today, which is the walking stick. Now this item also is not as old as some of the throwing darts that were found, but it's so unique and cool that I had to put it on the list. It's not just any old walking stick. It's a walking stick with runic inscription. Whoa, so cool. I actually have rocks with ruins on them at home that I bought from like a new agey store, and I love to look at them. Ruins are truly fascinating and quite beautiful, so I'm a big believer in symbology and the energy and power infused in symbols. So anyways, when I saw this recovered walking stick from the 11th century AD, I kind of freaked out and needed to share. In our number 4 spot, we have arrowheads. This is actually so cool. The entire video has been so fun to research, but finding this out was very interesting. I definitely need to go to museums more. I don't think I knew that I enjoyed history so much. Anyways, in 2003, a hiker was walking in a mountain pass near Sion, Switzerland, when he came across some treasures. Not gold, sadly, but what he found were items that are arguably way cooler from a Stone Age hunter from over 3,000 years ago. They were fragments of a bow, an arrow case, arrowheads, and leg coverings, all believed to be revealed due to the ice in the glaciers melting due to the rapidly changing climate. Pretty crazy. Imagine just going for a hike and discovering some ancient artifacts. I bet you there will never be a more interesting moment in your life. Although fine, the birth of your future child could be fairly special too. In our number 3 spot we have the Viking whisks. Technically not considered ancient artifacts, but I thought this was cool and it needed an honorable mention. The melting of glaciers in Norway has actually revealed a lost mountain pass, and with it, hundreds of Viking artifacts have been discovered. The pass was discovered back in 2011, as ever since, the glaciers have continued to melt and more artifacts have been recovered. The archaeologists believe the pass was used from the Roman Iron Age 300 AD to the Viking Age 1000 AD. From horseshoes to sled fragments to wooden needles to wooden whisks, all kinds of artifacts have been recovered. One of the most unique items include a Viking mitten and a blue textile rug. Wow, imagine finding a rug frozen on a mountain. Also, it's just wild to think that the Vikings had rugs. All I can think of when I think of Vikings is war, so it's probably just me and my limited imagination due to my limited knowledge of history. In our number 2 spot we have arrowheads. Over 100,000 artifacts were recently uncovered in a place called Nunavik in Alaska. These artifacts belong to the Yupik peoples who lived there. There have been stories told over many centuries of a gruesome massacre that occurred during the bow and arrow war days, which was a series of long, brutal battles. Up until recently, the area had been frozen in the subsoil known as permafrost. The most notable items that were found were the slate arrow points that further proved the stories that have been told about these war times. Although these items aren't technically ancient, they are truly a wonder for archaeologists to discover, and I thought it needed to be on this list. In our number 1 spot, we have an ancient lunchbox. A 3,500-year-old lunchbox was discovered in Switzerland in the Swiss Alps. No, it didn't have a 3,500-year-old cheese sandwich in it, but it did have traces of ancient cereal. Whoa, some ancient dude was just walking around the Alps eating an ancient version of Lucky Charms. The lunchbox is a Bronze Age wooden container, and apparently the food traces were of wheat and barley or rye grains. The lunchbox was made from Swiss pine and its rim was made from willow, sewn together with European larch twigs. It was found in a melting ice patch in 2012. That's incredible. Probably my fave find on this list, but anything to do with food just makes me excited. Excuse me as I go pour myself a bowl of Lucky Charms. Feel free to join me if you like.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have Mollivirus. Back in 2015, French researchers discovered a gigantic virus that they found in a sample of Siberian permafrost. This spherical DNA virus wasn't just any old virus. No, this one was about 30,000 years old. For the virus to survive that long, frozen in ice, truly is remarkable and also absolutely terrifying. There is good news, however. It is said that although some refer to this virus as a behemoth, it is said that the new discovery only infects amoebas, which means that it is unlikely to ravage the planet anytime soon. At least we hope. In our number 9 spot today, we have Lake Vostok. Many of us have heard of Atlantis, but have you heard of Lake Vostok? This lake is located in Antarctica, and it is so huge it's one of the largest lakes in the entire world. The lake not only has a large surface area, but it's also quite deep, which only adds to the volume of the lake. It's like the lakiest lake out there, and here's the thing about it. It is covered by ice, and not just any ice, but the East Antarctic ice sheet, which is just the largest ice sheet in the world. This subglacial lake has ice so thick that we don't really know a lot about what lies beneath it, and the ice has been there for millions of years. But when the first samples of the actual lake water were taken, it became apparent that there may be species in the lake that we know absolutely nothing about. In our number 8 spot today, we have the female mummy. Back in 2017, there was a mummy found in Siberia that absolutely rocked the scientific community. This discovery was so remarkable because deep within the permafrost, close to the Arctic Circle, they found the mummified remains of a woman who was roughly 900 years old. Said to have come from the medieval times, this marked the first woman to be discovered in that area, as previously it had been mostly men. It appears as though the mummification part was accidental, but it was quite a surprise to researchers who had thought that they wouldn't find a woman's remains in the area at all. It is said that all of the bodies found in this area belonged to a hunting and fishing civilization,
ocean, and this discovery gave experts very valuable insight into their lives and the times in which they lived. In our number 7 spot today we have Mount Erebus. Mount Erebus is the highest active volcano in Antarctica, as well as the southernmost active volcano on Earth. Got a lot going on. The volcano has been active for 1.3 million years, and it features a lava lake in the inner summit crater that's been present since the early 1970s. You might be thinking, it's a volcano, which surely is like the opposite of ice, right? But as it turns out, this volcano is like the definition of fire and ice. Here you can be sure to find numerous ice fumaroles, which are ice towers that form around the gases that are released or that escape from the vents on the surface. This creates a perfect home, not for many, but for some persevering and adaptable bacteria and fungi. This gives scientists quite the opportunity to study these organisms that can live in this extreme environment that doesn't really provide a lot of resources. In our number 6 spot today we have the Iceman. The mummy of Otzi, who is also referred to as the Iceman, was found in 1991 in the Otzal Alps in Italy. It is believed that Otzi lived around 3000 BC, and his body became mummified and preserved because of the glacier that surrounded him post-mortem. While this is an incredibly interesting discovery, the finding of Otzi may have come in a package with an old curse just waiting to be released. Here's the thing, the people who helped with the discovery of Otzi are all dying under mysterious circumstances. I mean, it is said that there were 7 deaths in 1 year alone, so if there is a curse, it's clearly a pretty strong one. It's almost as if disturbing a man who's been in the same spot for 53 centuries wasn't the best idea that anyone's ever had. In our number 5 spot today we have Europa. We are going off planet for this one. One of Jupiter's moons, called Europa, has a red tinge to it, and in 2001 NASA scientists revealed that it's possible that alien microbes might be responsible for this red color. The surface of this moon is mostly ice, but it has been shown that it reflects infrared radiation in a really bizarre way. This means that something is binding it together, but researchers haven't been able to come up with the correct combination of elements and compounds to make the data make sense. There are some bacteria on Earth that can thrive in extreme conditions that also have that red and brown color, which could potentially be responsible for the color on this moon. The surface temperature might be too cold for them to survive, but the warmer interior might be where they are located. Some geological activity on the moon could then push them closer to the surface, where they are then flash frozen in place. In our number 4 spot today we have P38. In 2018, a team of researchers were using a drone with ground penetrating radar technology when they found something that no one could have predicted. 300 feet deep in the Greenland ground, encased in ice, was a World War II plane. This P-38 Lightning fighter plane is actually just one out of 8 that were a squadron. This P-38 Lightning fighter plane was actually just one out of 8 that were part of a squadron. This group had all been lost and had crash landings after a blizzard on July 15th, 1942. After locating the fighter plane, researchers were able to then excavate it, but there still remains at least 4 in this squadron that have yet to be located. In our number 3 spot today we have Skeleton Lake. Also sometimes referred to as Mystery Lake, this place is exactly what it sounds like. It's a lake and there's a bunch of skeletons there. Located in the Himalayas, this lake freezes over in the winter months, but when the snow melts, there are various skeletons around the site that become visible around the edges of the lake. There have been many speculations as to how these people died, and at one point it was thought that these remains were a result of a pretty legendary event where, all in a single group, they were killed by a large and violent hailstorm, but the leading theory has since changed. Now it is said that the remains actually belong to 3 distinctly different groups who all died in separate events. At this point, the real story of what happened here may just remain a mystery that has left us with a haunting image. In our number 2 spot today we have Luba. This is the name that was given to a baby mammoth. Mummified remains were found frozen and extremely well preserved in ice. Luba would have roamed the earth about 48,000 years ago, which is truly incredible to think about. These mammoth remains were found in 2007, but it was actually a complete accident. The remains were found by a hunter who was out on a frozen peninsula in Russia. But here's where the story takes a bit of a crazy turn. So the man who discovered these remains didn't want to touch her because of a cultural belief that touching a mammoth would cause a bad omen, so he traveled to a nearby town to consult a friend, and this is when they decided to contact the authorities. The authorities then flew out to the area to collect the remains, but when they arrived, she had disappeared. The person who found her knew that someone had likely taken her to try and turn a profit, so he began doing some investigations. Long story short, they found the remains outside of a local store, and this is when it was revealed to them that the guy who had found the remains initially, his cousin had stolen them and brought them here in exchange for 2 snowmobiles. In the end, there was unfortunately minor damage to the body that included dogs having chewed off her right ear, but still the find and discovery was still incredible, and she was transported to a museum where she continues to give people a look into a time on Earth long ago. In our number 1 spot today, we have the Incan mummy. 20,000 feet above sea level on the edge of a volcano, researchers were startled to find a woman frozen in ice. This Incan mummy is said to have been so well preserved that she even still had lice in her hair. The researchers and doctors who examined her after her discovery were completely baffled at how well preserved she was, so much so that some of her features reminded them of a living, breathing human being, even down to the extremities. It truly was just remarkable. It is believed that this woman likely met her fate where she was found as a result of sacrifice. Because of her well-preserved nature, scientists were able to determine that she was suffering from quite a few ailments, including tuberculosis, which some believe is the reason why she was sacrificed.